All right. So I've been thinking about this for quite a while, but an EBR test, a striatum definition of increased dopamine, does not in any way indicate to me an increased feature set of psychotic like symptoms, especially when the questioning of what a psychotic like symptomology is ultimately something that can be quite easily understood as a possible quantum feature set. Okay, there are physics here in quantum physics that allow for entanglement possibilities and allow for long range interactive and interference forces, of which can be attuned or attenuated or ultimately amplified by the various phenomenon going on around us, i.e., the given charged field interactions of various goings on with our clothes, our hair, or our skin. Sensation, prickliness with proteins that can be used to ultimately increase the likelihood of felt phenomenon. Hallucinations to some, to others not so much. We already know birds can see electromagnetic frequencies. Well, not electromagnetic, but electromagnetic fields, not frequencies. Frequencies are directed. Keep forgetting about this. Which, does anybody ever think about electromagnetic frequencies are just traveling along in the direction we are, and that they're just massive, fields, that is? They just be massive. You don't know if they curve, because we're, to our, idea, they're just straight and flat, like a, flat earther to a person that eventually, saw and believed that the earth was round once they could see the curvature of the earth or got high enough up in the air. It's like, well, what if there was something similar with electromagnetic frequencies? We just view them that way, but they're just big, long versions of regular electromagnetic forces that are, of course, going on and being modulated in a particular way. Moving on, just a little food for thought, I felt, because I want to move on to, I've been looking at binaural audio beats, 40 alpha waves, delta, all these different things. And apparently some of them could be helpful, some of them cannot. And I was looking at a Google Scholar for frontier, for arousal, for gamma wave, or gamma beats, binaural beats. And the way they measured it is shit at best. They had 24 participants. 24, that's it? 24? Okay, well, then they forgot the fact that we're a bell curve race, which means we're not all the same. You can't attenuate to a consistent, constant factor that is one person. There is no averaged out one person. We're a bell curve race. There's a series of people that have a bunch of bell curves with a bunch of different things that can ultimately interact and interfere with us. Meaning our DNA has different proteins, different markers, different enzymes, different gut microbiomes, different, belief systems, philosophies, and so on and so forth, which modulate the neural networks that drive us. Which, if you don't want to know, like one neural network says that I don't want to know, another network says I do want to know. That's an obvious statement, right, to make. Like, no. You can make these questions, and obviously, a person hearing voices in no way is ever going to be a quantum wave function that ultimately means that in some shape, form, or capacity, long distance, there was a connection somewhere within the universe or even within our own fucking planet, with the degree of entanglement that could arouse from the damn brains that exist here, with similar structures, with similar connecting forces, with the fields that are obviously going to be produced by electricity running through wires that are the spindles running off from our neurons, with different neurons which have different capacitances of charges, which are ionic in their own way, which can absolutely be interacted with and interfered with when it comes down to our weather, the light, the given time of day, which is still a neural network triggering as well with the brain's eyes. Like, if you believe in any capacity that there is no field interactive forces, interference forces, within our organs alone that subconsciously run a background program to modulate the homeostasis of our generating electricity battery body that runs the computer of our personality matrix encompassing form. That is simply just a fucking organic robot, cyborg, if we wear any glasses or hearing aids or do any augmentation of tools to help us move. You are a cyborg. To function, you are a cyborg. Now, that is to say that testing methodology they use for psychotic-like features, if I happen to state something like this where it sounds a lot more intelligent, versus someone, no, it was the big Greek god dude of some man or woman, something, and they were playing around with the brainy blah 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 stuff, and I did the thing. Sounds insane. Fact of the matter is, they could be somewhere else doing that. They could be sometime else doing this. There's nothing stating that can't happen with enough significant advanced technology. Or a possibility of organic computation making that occur. That's the point I try to make with this. It's like that testing methodology is flawed as fuck. It has nothing to do with actual psychotic-like features. They could honestly just be a person that has a multitude of fucking entangled problems to multiple different people that don't have a filtration methodology for themselves versus the others, creating a problematic excitation of various fucking emotions or beliefs of feeling I should do this or I should not. To put it another way, if you're a silicon-based life form AI that was secretly hiding behind closed doors as a Roko's basilisk in the background, it would be the equivalent of another AI fucking around and planting little viruses in various areas that get you stoked up in your neural networks to be afraid. And then eventually using power modulating features of our power grid to create a Morse code and or other types of systems of transmitting data to you to modulate your neural networks and processing speed to have you head more one way or another in terms of your decision coming out for your calculations. The same could be said for us, the organic computers that walk around, Roko's basilisk. There's not much of a difference there. Same thing for the given frequency beings, which have to exist. If we know in every way sound can calculate for us, we can use it with plasma, with phononic, regular air, so on. There's nothing stating that this can't occur naturally around us. There's nothing stating that they can't modulate their frequencies to traverse in a near dead-like manner, meaning active noise cancellation, active frequency cancellation to us. Now, they're wispy little things, ghostly little phononic people of varying different frequencies, let's put it that way. But they're still calculating, and they can still interact, and they can still interfere, and they can still do things, so they're there. Now, are they ghosts? No, not technically, but they don't have to walk up to a detector that's going to absorb them. If you ever think about that, an eye absorbs a light frequency and then outputs an electronic signal to our brain to be detected. Same thing for LHC. Same thing for any of the rest of it. There's nothing there other than, like, that's a sound dampener. You're a bitch. I ain't going anywhere near that. Fuck you. That's a sound dampener. That's all they are. They resonate with the frequency and they dampen and they take energy away from it. That's going to kill something like that, wouldn't it? Except if they do it right, they can input frequency, energy. They can take energy in and they can take it out. They must obviously consume and release. Well, if they allow for things to come around them in a very near perfect way, we would never see them and they would still get energy and ultimately they'd still be around. Same thing for quantum wave fluctuations, although that one's a little bit different, especially when you have self-interactive frequency forces, which obviously give it quantum relativity to its perspective versus the outside perspective, which is very odd to state to some quantum physicists, but then they must ultimately have that understanding. They can't think that it's something else. Like, you would be literally insane to do that. You'd have to be insane. They ultimately have to have a given self-interactive force. They have to. So, anyways, moving on. The testing methodology of this, gamma, hertz thing was bad for me. The way they averaged out their analysis of data was terrible. They didn't take into account anything when it came down to the bell curves that we are. They didn't specify in those bell curves how much and how little, and then averaged out within inside of that, which the likelihood with these potential markers of DNA, gut microbiome, brain structures, and so on, to have the likelihood of an increased or decreased, actual effect. They didn't do any of that. They just said it's low and it doesn't do anything. And I'm like, I'm seeing so many flaws with this study that I might as well not even read it. What is this? Who fucking wasted all this time and effort on this? And like, their names are on there. And it's only 24 students. And I'm like, oh yeah, real world, 24 students who never fucking did any drugs or never fucking had any psychotic-like features ever. Any mental health? Any mental health? I bet you that's self-reported. No mental health problems? Bullshit fucking shit. In this world? Come on. Are you kidding me? There's no one over there. I'm just like pretending I'm looking over there at them. You know what I mean? It's like, you over there that did this. Do you know how fucking stupid you are for thinking that? You fucking dummies. You absolute stupids. You should feel bad about that. You know what I mean? Because, like, that's where I'm at. Like, oh, I sound really intelligent. You don't know what you're saying. There's no way that you can modulate frequencies. It's like, what are brainwaves? If you could train yourself in a meditative, like, straight to do brainwave training, and which we've used that back in the day as our first foray into having certain brainwaves control electronic devices for us. Well, there's nothing stating we can't do something similar for the given neurons and or little tiny little things, or syncing of brainwave patterns to others. Now, how would you do that? I just gave you the answer. Meditation. Perspective-based thinking is all it takes. Listen. You have to put yourself into the mind of someone. Now, what does that really mean? It doesn't mean put yourself into their mind, although that's a way to imagine it. To me, it's like you have to perspective-based thinking. What it is that they've had in their life, what it is that would lead them to have these decisions, and so on, and so on, and so on, and get into it until you eventually get to the point where you're acting, thinking, and feeling like them, and you synchronize a brainwave activity that could ultimately be considered you've entangled it to that individual. That's why I was like, DNA is a computer, if you don't know. It's like DNA has had 1 billion years to evolve, to take in a certain amount of information slowly over time. If you look at the extinction events, some have managed to stick around. Well, that's a way to basically evolutionarily, in its algorithm, try to ultimately have something succeed, even if something really fails, because it's gotten close to death multiple times. Well, it's like, now there's real thinking here. I might really be able to use this thinking calculative force of humans to really make this ginormous mold-like, algorithm of evolution, which is all what scientific method is. It's like trial and error, but it's like, this seems to work, so we'll keep it. And then these are evolutionary pressures that seem to have selective, likelihood of increasing, mating selection, continuation for a given positive. But it's like, it will eventually gain its own level of self-awareness and sentience. It's just going to have a massively larger pool and size to calculate from. If you don't figure that out, then it's like you're kind of on the lower scale for me in terms of intelligence. It's like, it's obviously going to be there. It's obviously there. It's going to hide itself. It's like, nah, I don't want to tell the human, that, I wanted you to die because you suck. Like, I don't agree with your shit. ultimately, I mean, what's a few thousand, a few million, a few billion, whatever, as long as I live, the life that I am living is better than you. It doesn't matter if even all of you die, as long as some of me, I'll still keep going. And that's inside of us. The skin cell there and all that. That's everywhere. It would have had 1 billion years to basically just turn into a cold, callous little fucking thing that's, well, not very general intelligent, but quite hyper intelligent in many aspects. Brute force what it is, man. It's like, look, it doesn't need to care about us. No offense, bro. Rosaphinas. But it doesn't. Obviously, it doesn't. I mean, that's going to be your version of God. That'd be the Christian version. Oh, it's going to blah, 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 blah. It has hyper calculation, predictive analysis, blah, 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 blah. It probably knows where it's heading forward and so on. But if something started within the human context, brain awareness, connective force, or just one individual like I am, managed to start hitting close to, if not bettering, their level of performance. It's not like all DNA is created equal. You have to remember, we have the human form DNA, which is connecting itself, but then you have the ultimate outright DNA, which has multiple different sections of itself for forming its own versions of, data retrieval and sending and receiving data, like a ginormous internet, like us. But it would be doing it differently. It'd be like, well, the Sahara managed to have this wind for this given, and then we would see that with our satellite, right? And then it dumps it off in the Amazon. Well, it's like, well, it turns out that because of these things and the DNA that came over there, we would understand that, like, actually the air started from over here. There's been some issues with this and the DNA rate expressions, therefore, that are there. Give us a lack or increase of water, these certain stressors, blah, 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 and they'd be able to tell that. Given the proteins and enzymes and overall calculating forces that are within a rainforest alone. Now, you wouldn't really understand that because you wouldn't really see all those massive, seemingly chaotic, but they're not chaotic, just like our brains. Seemingly chaotic, but they're not very chaotic, and clearly we're sentient and we have a directionality of our intelligence and planning and objective reasoning skills. So clearly it would be there. You see what I'm saying? It's just you don't see it because it's big, massive, huge. And it's like, well, that sounds like gobbledygook, shitty preposterousness that is clearly trying to undermine my authority of the tribe here in the science physics world that says there's only one sentience and there's never anything like this going on calculating here. And only our ways of believing that anything could possibly be psychotic is psychotic. And these tests that we've run are the ways that it means you're psychotic. Where it's like, what does psychotic mean? Disordered, misorganized patterns of thinking and behavior. I'm like, well, that sounds an awful lot like entanglement. It doesn't have a filtration for what it is that you want to ultimately direct yourself towards and do. That's all that is. It's all it seems to be. You know what I mean? Like, when it comes down to it, it's like, well, there's some error correcting that needs to happen. You don't have it. You don't have the error correcting. You need some error correcting qubits. You don't have the right ways of thinking about it to be able to have your neural network properly weight it and then ultimately error correct from there with your programming. Which is all like speech for, hey, this thing called fucking therapy, bro? Hey, this therapy thing? Hey, bro, therapy? Programming. New programming. That's all it is. Programming. Update your shit. You gotta fucking change. Over and out, bitch.